Hello everybody, the iLord Root here, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. I thought I would go ahead and mention that partially because of the mishaps we had in the last episode, and also because of the fact that, I don't really want to send people to where I'm about to, make this, mission go. I have created a probe with quite a massive launch stage. This is going to take us to Eve, at least with any amount of luck. And we're going to do a sample return trip. And you can see here we have a very long probe with much care taken to the actual you know, recovery of the vessel. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're going to launch. We're gonna take a rather unorthodox profile to get to Eve because it is we don't really have a window for another 40 or 50 days, and truth be told, I just want to, go now. So impatience is getting the best of us. And so let's go ahead, we're going to lift off. And you'll notice we have a 6-stage asparagus build with SRBs, and you might even be asking, well, why is it so big? And that has a lot to do with the fact that we're probably going to need between 4 and 5,000 delta V, meters per second delta V rather. And so, because of that, we really have no choice but to build big. We're gonna take this entire middle section here into space with us. And it looks like we're going to oscillate a little bit too. So, yeah, we'll just go ahead, we'll take care of that. And we should be hopefully picking up some velocity at this point. The thing about this is that the ship is so massive that it's very difficult to really get, a lot of delta V out of that. We don't have our main cell engine, of course, so we're using these skipper engines instead. And that's going to hurt us at some point. But with that having been said, I mean, we're going to get this thing into space. And then, conventional wisdom says that we should burn during sunrise. That's not going to be the case here. We're going to burn at sunset. And the reason for that is because if we burn at sunrise, because of the fact that our window is so small, it's going to be really difficult to get an Eve encounter. And so, we'll just wait for this thing to run out of fuel, and we'll jettison it. And our periapsis may drop a little bit, but that'll be okay. Or rather, our time to periapsis. That's one of the things I do miss about not having mech job, is that, it's difficult to monitor that sort of thing. But that'll be okay. We have plenty of fuel up until that point. And we're going to try our best to get this thing down. You can see already our time to apoapsis is increasing dramatically. So this thing is admittedly quite big. It's one of those deals to where yeah, I mean, I overbuilt this rocket, but we're doing a sample return mission. We want as much spare Delta V as we can handle. It just wouldn't feel right if I didn't build with that in mind. So, we'll just go ahead. We'll try to maintain an equatorial orbit here. We actually probably do want to go a little bit to the north. But, we'll continue to burn until we get a fairly decent apoapsis. So we're gonna go for maybe like 80, 90. That will probably do us well. And we're dropping very slightly. We'll reach, we'll hopefully reach orbital velocity pretty soon. In fact, I'm gonna pull up just a little bit. This needn't be perfect, but I think that'll be okay for now. And let's warp through the atmosphere, see if we can't get back some of our losses on that. Really, as long as we retain a good altitude, that'll be fine. And so we are now in a ballistic trajectory, and we'll just you know, we'll just it's fairly circular in my opinion. We'll go with that. Not that it has to be perfectly circular or anything, but that will be our, that will be our launch trajectory, or our circularization trajectory there. And then once we do that, if we get that 6 seconds of burn out of the way, we will, you know, we'll go ahead, we'll burn around, sunset. There we go. We're probably not entirely circular, but... And we are wobbling a little bit, that'll contribute, but we'll just... We'll get about 1,000 delta V there. 1,000's a nice square. Well, maybe 950 will do. And give us a little bit in the way of escape velocity. And so we will commit that burn. That's we're very close to it now. We might as well. I'm gonna burn it 45 seconds, I believe. And that should give us exactly what we're looking for. And so, yeah, that'll, that'll pretty much be our burn there. And once we get out there, our next maneuver is to make a plane change. And so this entire deal, I'm thinking, should take close to, I don't know, maybe a year or so. That seems like the most reasonable estimate. And so there's going to be a year without launches, but that'll, I guess, simply be because of the fact that they're evaluating what's gone wrong in the program thus far. So we're on our way out. And let's just zoom out here. In reality, maybe the first thing we should do is set Eve as our target and do a, we'll do a adjustment, or an adjustment of our, you know, inclination. It's a little bit too much in the way there, but that'll be fine. Other things we might want to do is we might want to gather some data. That is a whopping 275 science that we can get from that, which is pretty nifty. We'll also grab our mystery goo here. And then, we'll get ready for this burn, I think. Which, let's see, we're burning north, I think. I could be wrong about that. If not, then we're burning south. We'll just get ourselves poised for that change in inclination. And then soon after, we're going to insert ourselves into Eve's sphere of influence. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This can, this can be a little bit of a rough approximation, because we're going to fine tune when we get to the planet. And we'll just there, we've got a 42-second burn, which isn't bad. We'll we'll just burn at 21, I think. And even if we do miss our mark very slightly, that'll be okay too. And so, it looks like we haven't, fortunately, but we'll do 21 here. And we'll, we'll get ourselves aligned in terms of inclination. And we've still got a little bit to go. Probably, we don't need to worry about too much, I reckon, but, we are going to have to probably budget out a, some separation of some kind. So let's go ahead, let's figure out where our closest approach is. And I think it'll be somewhere up here. And then what we can do is we can rotate this on in. Well, that's not quite what I had in mind. Hold on. I think we can possibly get this thing more fine-tuned. So we have a rather high orbit here. Or I guess you can't really call it an orbit, I guess you'd call it a flyby. And we're getting this thing as low as we can now, because sooner or later we're going to run into the issue that, yeah, we're going to run into the issue that, maybe I'll go ahead and lock in onto that target while I'm here. We're going to run into the issue that it's going to cost us way less now to make that adjustment. And we're going to have to balance this out just a little bit. There we go. We'll just, you know what, I'll save here, just in case. Now there's going to be one spot in particular that we're going to want to quick save. And that's going to be up here. Or not up here, but when we actually make it into, oop, we passed it just a little bit. Well, that's okay. We can watch this thing. We're going to have to, worry a little bit about, staging here in a bit, though. Let's bring up the stage only seems to, oh, there we go. Stage only does not seem to have the desired effect. How are we doing on fuel? We're going to get our encounter pretty soon, I think. I'm going to be a little bit surprised if, oh, where did that marker go? I'm going to be a little bit surprised if we have any fuel left over. Fortunately, at this point out, we have all of the time in the world. So if I can just find, that marker there. We'll get this thing lowered. In fact, we'll just save there. I think we won't need much in the way of adjustment, though. In fact, we've still got a little bit of fuel in that stage, which is really nifty. Which means we won't have the space debris left about. Usually whenever I make this burn, we do have a little bit in the way of space debris. But, in this case we don't. And so, we'll just go ahead, we'll wait for this thing to get up here. And I guess while I'm waiting, I do need to check one thing. I was just checking to see if in fact I was recording. That would be very unfortunate if I wouldn't, because nobody would believe me if I said I did better than I planned for. This is why having I guess having a, you know, a set deal going on. Oh, come on, cross that sphere of influence. You can see we actually already have a pretty good deal going on, so I'm going to grab some data here. We got 175. It wasn't as good as the other one, but it's way more than we would have had otherwise. So let's just save, and what we'll do is we'll plan to drop this thing into the atmosphere. My mouse is wigging out just a little bit. I think it has something to do with the fact that I have that other mouse plugged in. And it's a shade on the broken side. So what would be easiest for us? Well, we could do that. I think we should bother though. We'll rotate in. So that's 3.1 meters per second. That's not going to be our final trajectory, but that's going to be close enough for it's going to be close enough for don't do that. Hold on, let me try this again. There we go. That's in 6 minutes. That's much better. We'll just curve this guy on in. It's going to be 35. That's going to be to drop off our propulsion stage. And we actually don't have much to commit to here. And I did miss it entirely, but let's just jettison that. I don't want to worry about anymore. Now the deal is we'll just save here since we're close in. We're gonna want to bring up our periaps quite a good bit. Not to 100, but maybe to 56 is a little bit too shallow. 73 is... It's difficult to estimate this. Partially because of the fact that there's not much in the way of tolerance. with this. Although at the speed we're coming in, I suspect this may be a little bit too much. It's 103, 87, 66. We'll try 66 at first. And if it doesn't work out, then we quick saved. So, sort of periapsis. Periapsis is not good enough. It's much better, though, in this case, to be deflected by the atmosphere than it is to have the other thing go on. The other thing, of course, being for us to crash into the planet. So we'll just grab that. If we're lucky, we'll get an orbit out of it. And we'll take all of our data here. Let's take a look at our deal here. We're going to get an orbit. We are, in fact, going to get an orbit out of this. Which will be nice. Because without that orbit, in fact, I wonder. Well, we're not quite. It says we're in the atmosphere, but it won't let us take the barometric pressure. I guess we'll just take that when we come back in. So the thing to see here is whether or not, and we are out of the atmosphere now. Let's see if this counts as being in orbit, as opposed to being okay. We'll just take that in space. However, we will let's just save here. We will get plenty of time to you know, we'll get plenty of time to get out of the atmosphere and to return to Kerbin. It's rather unfortunate that, in our case, that we don't have, much in the way of, you know, the ability to go through the atmosphere. Wow, we are very highly Well, where are we? It's Eve. Why have we not escaped? I guess, we'll try burning forge. We're still... There we go. I guess I just hit the threshold. Now, with any amount of luck... Okay, come on, stabilize that orbit. Are we... That really is getting quite irritating. There we go, we're out finally. Oh, let's see. We need to set Kerman as our target now. Let's see first if there's nothing we can do to intersect. We have lots of delta V now, so it's... We can sort of incrementally do this, although we could... We'll attempt to some degree, I think, to bring this in a little closer. Of course. Yeah, we'll... You know what, we'll... Instead of rotating this, we'll hit our ascending node first, and we'll bring this down. Or maybe not. We do have a bunch of delta V. It might be better for us to adjust this when we're far out. So we've got, what, 40 days? And this is the part of the mission that may take the longest, because we're not in a fantastic, we're not in a fantastic orbit right now. I mean, we could do worse. But look at that. That's a 6-minute burn right there. We have a ton of delta V. So I'm gonna do a time warp. And hopefully that'll help us just a little bit. Now, in fairness, we could wait, but I'd rather get home now because there's much science to be done on the surface of Kerbin. Oh, there we go. We could, at this point, attempt to adjust our apses, which looks like it would actually make us a little bit worse off. And the deal is, we want to bring that in if we can. Where were we? Well, let's see if we do adjust our apses, then we're 20 million kilometers away, right? How does that adjust us? Does that bring us further apart? That impact does not, but I mean, we got plenty of fuel to get back to where we want to for sure. Even if this aspect of the mission is somewhat futile. But I mean, that's part of the deal though, is that when we know what we're doing, we can very easily get ourselves in line with the planet Kerbin. And I think this inclination change will help just a little bit, because it'll give us more opportunities. Oh, there we go. I missed very slightly. There we go. So our new inclination is -6. Let's see what we can do with this. If perhaps we can. That's moving us further in. We really. There we go. That's something worth pursuing. That has changed our inclination a little bit too much. Well, I had it. Let's see. Closest approach is what? Now I wonder if we set this so that this is unfortunately a very tedious process. It'll give us something to work with at least. What kind of barn is that? We have nothing but Delta V here to burn, so I mean it's just a matter of when. And you know what, I'm not even sure if I should bother getting it spot on. However, I am going to turn on time acceleration. But I'm not going to do that. We'll get this thing down to a decent, you know, trajectory. Okay, cut. Something tells me that won't really do, but let's see if we bring this guy down, what's going to happen? That's just gonna go down very slightly. Not enough to really make a difference, but from there we can attempt this maneuver, which I think is what we want. That is definitely what we want. But we'll fine tune that when we get to you know, when we get to our burn point, because we inevitably will have to. I mean, it's not in the world's you know, easiest thing to we'll do 9 there. Or we won't. It's not the world's easiest thing to generate an efficient, you know, return trajectory the way we're doing. And in this case, efficiency is somewhat subjective because on the one hand, there we go. I think that's still valid. Is there a way we can adjust that any? We do want to come in a little bit. Oh, nice. Yeah, there is. Okay, we overdid that some. That's 22k. That's or not 22k. That's 2.2 mil, which will be fine. We can burn inwards towards the planet. So I mean that'll just have to do. Oh, well, at least, you know, we don't have to worry too much about that. At least it's worse things have been known to happen. You might be saying, you know, this is a lot of fuel you're spending on this. Are you sure that, you know, this is really wise? I mean, to be fair, it is. This spacecraft, is designed with that in mind, and it's, we're going to have a little bit of fuel left over for sure. But it's, this is the trade-off that we make for not, waiting. It might have taken the same amount of time. I mean, we'll just, we'll go down here. We need to get ready to cut our berm pretty soon. But as you can see, we have more. Oh, snap. You know, we have more than enough here. Although, where's our... We're very slightly unaligned. That's probably because I burned so late. However, that's 65 meters a second of delta V to make that correction, so it's a bit embarrassing, but you know, it's only 9 seconds of burn, which I'm more than happy to deal with. Now we're going to be coming in here with more or less all of the potential energy that we have from this point. That means, of course, that there we go. We'll just go ahead and save that real quick. That means that we can do a lot of things. We can, we definitely probably want to bleed this off a little bit. Whenever we get in, the speed. And that'll just take some waiting. Let's see what our window is, by the way. We have it's going to be difficult to tell at this point. Let's see. We have about it looks like 6 to 8 hours to once we get inside to adjust our apses. Which we can do right now. So let's just zoom in here. I'll save, of course. Let's bring this down to a known good, point. Maybe about, well, that's rather disturbing. Why can't, there we go. We'll add in a maneuver. That's our potential energy, or that's our kinetic energy now. Just imagine what it's going to be when we get to the planet. I mean, I reckon it's probably going to be, okay, we do want to aero brake a little bit. I mean, I guess we could technically, you know, crash into the planet or whatever, but we're gonna have a polar orbit. Which is going to be interesting. I'm gonna come in a bit steep here. Now, one thing I learned the hard way is not to go on 100 times time acceleration. Oh, I thought I got that. Looks like I missed my opportunity. Well, although that appears to be a um different measurement. Or maybe I just never bothered to get that one. And you could see here we're coming in so fast that half the planet's been consumed by a black hole. So we're gonna be up around 40k it looks like. Or not 40k, 4k. Now we're in the atmosphere. Um, you know, I'm going to do some things that may help us. We'll definitely have to be careful around here. But I'll start firing retrograde to slow down our kinetic energy. I mean, let's face it, we have plenty of fuel. And before too much longer, I'm going to, we can't quick save because we're in the atmosphere. But that looks relatively flat to me. I'm going to wait until we get down to maybe 6,000 and I'll pop the, I'll pop this thing here. And we're now on internal power. I think we're probably about to pop our chutes pretty soon. That appears to be very likely. Yeah, that mission, it looks like, has taken about a year or so. Which is pretty amazing if you think about it. I mean, time warp sometimes does seem a little bit too slow in some sense. Let's see if we can't make that lag a little bit less. And there was our core stage. We'll just let this thing touch down. One thing we know for certain is that thing is definitely protected from impact. In fact, it's probably a little bit too well protected, but that's not something we want to. I mean, we don't want to have, our sample containers break open and, expose us to, I guess, um, Evian pathogens that exist in the or in the upper atmosphere. That apparently we were never in. Now here's the $1,000,000 question. How much science did we get out of that? We got a ton of science. Look at that. That is definitely nice. I like that. Let's make some purchases. There are plenty of things we could do here that might help. One is probably going to be the supersonic flight, or we could go with lander legs. Although we get a new experiment if we do this. And we'll have just, we won't have enough for oh, that's tempting. That would give us batteries, but this would give us a new experiment. Two experiments, to be fair. I'm gonna go with that because those two experiments are worth a lot in my opinion. I mean, we did get, are those regular batteries? We have ion propulsion there that we could do. Or we could do improved lander legs or probes or whatever. That is a difficult decision, but I think that supersonic flight's going to probably be our next one. I mean, right now we just have, I think enough science to where it almost makes sense for us to just send a probe into space, and we could, we could do another probe and get some more of that experience. And so, anyway, this has been Thy Lord Roots, and I will see you next